Okay, here we are, episode 2 of SpOKen Freely, talking anything and everything sports in the great state of Oklahoma. We made it another week. First episode did well enough that I figured we might as well give it another shot. And I'm very pleased, if not honored, to have our guest this week. You know him from the Daily Oklahoman. He covers the Oklahoma State Cowboys. He's Jacob Unruh. And I got to be honest, Jacob, I was a little hesitant about having you on, not because of you, but because as an Oklahoma State alum, having the OSU beat writer on second episode, I was like, if people didn't already think I was a homer, this really isn't going to help my case.
It's all right. I'm honored to be on the second podcast. It's pretty cool you're starting one down there. I know my time in Lawton was special to me too, so it's good to see you guys doing things like this.
And that is a great segue. That is one of the threads that we have in common, that some years ago you were here at the Lawton Constitution as well before you joined the Daily Oklahoman. And, we'll talk a little bit about that later on. But first of all, what are some of the memories that you had of Lawton and covering high school sports down here in Southwest Oklahoma?
Man, you said some days ago, and you're right. I feel old now. It's been 9 years this month since I left. My first day at the Oklahoman was August 1st in 2011. So it's been 9 years. And, my big memories are I was a huge, I was the area guy. And Joey Goodman brought me on, kind of created the position for me. Which coming out straight out of college is kind of a dream gig for a kid that doesn't really know what he's doing, but he gets a chance to kind of learn on a beat like that is get to do that. So you got a lot of fun stuff, I remember covering state tournaments for the first time, really. Like the Cash girls basketball team was dominant back then. So was Anadarko girls, and they still are. So I was always there. Fort Cobb boys. Football-wise, you get to make a little bit of some runs, covering those area teams. And, Snyder made a run one year, I think. And, you get those. And the baseball teams were all really good down there, too, at the time. And my first summer, I was covering the Colonels, the American Legion team, at the time. And I covered every home game. I went to the state tournament in Enid. Saw JT Romito hit a grand slam against them in the first inning. And then I saw him quarterback Carl Albert at Duncan in the following fall. And then I saw him play shortstop for Carl Albert out in Mac this following spring. And so now I look at it and think, wow, I watched JT Romito play at least a few times. That's pretty cool, right? And things like that. But then most of the people are the memories I have the most. And working with people like Nick Livingston and Matt Franklin, who are still very good friends of mine, and Joey.
Yeah, it's definitely a different area if you're not, I went to college in Oklahoma, but knew very little about Lawton when I got here, and everyone told me, just be careful while you're there, and it is what you make of it. You hang out in the right areas, you hang out with the good people, like you said, and and then you moved on to the Daily Oklahoman. You started as a prep writer covering high school sports, correct? And then
I started as a copy editor and page designer at the sports desk.
Okay, and then you eventually, because that's how I knew you, was from covering a lot of the high school sports. And I think we ran into each other at an OU or an OSU game once, and then. I guess it was last year when Nathan Ruiz left, then you took the Oklahoma State job. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I had spent 3 years in Lawton, and like you, when people said to be careful, I had people actually tell me not even to go for the job interview when I was in college. And I went and fell in love with the idea of that, and covering OU and OSU and covering high schools and doing everything I did. But I spent 3 years in Lawton, and then so I've spent about 2 years, not quite 2 years, on the desk at the Oklahoman. I would cover high school events on my days off. I'd cover football games on Thursday nights because I had Wednesday, Thursdays off. Cover football games on my own time. write a feature here and there, cover state tournament games as I could to help them. Just kind of kept building and trying to get off the desk, and because I wanted to write still, I was just trying to get a foot in the door. And then, so 2013, that summer, right before I got married, I got word I was moving. I was going to become a high school beat with Scott Wright, and so I did that in 2013, and then he actually left the beat in, oh man, what was it? It was 2017, I think. Sounds right, because I did 2 years of football without Scott on high school beat with Adam Kemp, and then last year I got moved to OSU beat when some things had to be reshuffled.
And then this summer, as if a global pandemic wasn't big enough, you're on this beat that you've only had for less than a year, and then of course, it ends up becoming a beat that becomes unexpectedly rather exciting, shall we say, during the summer with some of the things that happen there. But obviously, camp starting back, or practices starting back this past week. What is the media availability? What is your job like right now covering OSU sports? Are you able to go to Stillwater, or how does that work right now?
My job is a lot like this, sitting here on a Zoom call with you and asking questions or answering questions or whatever. I have been to Stillwater once since March, since the shutdown. It's just we don't have access. We're not allowed in the buildings. We're not. They're not allowing us access to players personally or coaches. So everything's being done by Zoom for media right now, which is a challenge in itself. It's not the worst scenario. It's obviously not the best. The best is normal as we can be, but it presents its own challenges of you're not getting you're not getting anything different than anyone else. Everyone's getting the same information and same quotes, and so there's a little bit of challenge. You've got to find different ways to be a little different and unique.
I would be remiss if I didn't, I wanted to talk about, OSU football and just, what the team might look like. But I think the big elephant question in the room, especially after, the past 48 hours is, are we even going to have a college football season? And, from your perspective, I mean, what needs to go right, or what, obviously neither of us have medical degrees, but have you heard anything on the ground level about, what might or might not happen in the next, 4 to 5 weeks at least?
Anything can happen at this point, I think. With the MAC canceling the other day, that kind of starts to raise questions about other FBS conferences, but I don't know how much you can rely on the Big 12 to make a decision on the MAC. There's no impact on the MAC for the Big 12, essentially, other than losing some non-conference game they were already going to lose, probably. So I feel like the Big 12 is going to be one of the last ones to make a decision. But you see all these national reports of Power 5 people saying it's just a matter of time before college football is canceled. That wouldn't surprise me at this point. Nothing seems to necessarily be improving numbers-wise and infection-wise and anything like that. And I don't know how you can go and ask people, 22 people on a field to sit there and hit each other, play after play, in that proximity. But, I'm not going to be surprised they try to play it either. But I've kind of held the notion most of the summer that I think the first thing we're going to see played on campus is college basketball.
Wow. That's
kind of been my belief, but that's just my belief.
It definitely seems with fewer people, you could probably control that environment a little more. So I saw somebody on Twitter recently, a former high school football player that I covered. They talked about the masks that these players are wearing, the clear guards that they have underneath the face masks, and somebody said, yeah, that's going to protect them, even as you're tackling each other and blood and sweat is dripping on one another, and I don't even pretend to know exactly how this virus works, but I do know that, yeah, if it's, especially through bodily fluids and through bacteria, you got, as I was discussing with our, I guess, yeah, you probably would have known him, Kyle Weatherly from Channel 7 here in KSWO. He has 2 young kids, and we were talking about, kids going back to school at all levels and sports at all levels. And he said, I think he said something along the lines of, toddlers and elementary school kids are some of the grossest creatures on earth. And I think high school, or I think football in general, locker rooms and fields are some of the grossest places you can find too. And it's just hard for me to believe yeah, like you said, that number of bodies around each other, I don't understand. And I think the big thing to think about, and again, when I had Kyle on our podcast last week, was, while people of a young age are not necessarily infallible to it, they are better equipped to fight this disease if they have better immune systems or good physical shape. You have a lot of coaches that are in their 60s or even 70s that, what do you do if you're them? And that, here it was, whatever it was, April, that Mike Gundy was saying, I think these kids are best equipped to fight this disease. And looking back on it, wasn't the craziest Gundy moment of the summer, actually. And
it was still crazy, but it wasn't the craziest.
Yeah. I guess that was going to be kind of my next question. I'm not trying to get you to spill any beans. And again, you probably don't know. Like you said, because it's all done via Zoom, you probably have just as much insight as anyone else, though, is, let's say there is a season. How does this team bounce back from a lot of the turmoil that happened over the past 3 months?
I think one thing that's come out of this is it's kind of unified the players a little bit. It was pretty close to across the board unification behind Chuba player-wise pretty quick. And from what I understand, I'm sure there are some players who didn't agree with Chuba. You've got 105 players there or whatever that, you're going to have differing views. But when you talk to players, I talked with Landon Wolf over the summer, and he was very unified and talked about the players unified. And then last week when we talked with Malcolm Rodriguez and Tylen Wallace, they talked about the unification of the team. And I think that helped. I think Gundy is trying to take the steps in the right direction. Whether they're working, they appear to be so far. Whether they work, I don't know. But I think that his eyes were a little open to this. I think it became the separation I had heard for a little bit before all this from him in the program. You could talk to some parents or some players, and you've got key players that may not have talked to Mike Gundy in a long time personally, or they have something going on with their family that's pretty personal, and they never hear from Gundy about it, and that kind of rubs people the wrong way. And I think that was kind of some of this too. And so I think they're moving that right direction. I think they're going to be fine as long as they can stay healthy. I'm interested to see how Chuba's accepted in a stadium of fans, but I don't know that we're going to get to see him play in front of fans at OSU ever again. Maybe if they push it to the spring, maybe get some fans in there. But I think at that point you're going to need a vaccine. But that's a different topic. But and so I'm interested about that. But I think overall the team seems to be going really well. It's a group of veterans this year, and I think that's really going to help them pull through this.
That was going to be kind of the next topic, is moving on to in a perfect world, we wouldn't obviously have this, but in the most perfect situation right now, let's say they do have a football season. I think if you're an Oklahoma State fan, that is probably the most frustrating thing about all this happening over this past summer, as well as the pandemic, is the fact that don't quite have the same feelings as, say, like 2011 or 2017. This, this is our year sort of thing. But this was supposed to be a potentially breakout season for Oklahoma State. And whenever you have, especially when you have a guy like Tylan Wallace returning from injury, that you had to have so many things go right, and then seemingly all off the field things seem to go the opposite of right during the summer. What do you think, as they get back to camp? What have you heard from what this team looks like, and are they well equipped to possibly go contend for a Big 12 title?
And I think they are if they stay healthy. I mean, if you got at least a close to 100% Tylan Wallace, he's still arguably the best receiver in the country. Spencer Sanders being healthy will be key. That the offense sputtered a little bit without him at the end of the season last year, but he really started to show flashes of the talent that won him the job, and he stopped turning the ball over there. They started really kind of click for him there late. And, I think you have that group that knows that this is the chance they can go and make a run at the Big 12 title. I mean, OU's still OU. Not taking anything away from them, but it's not necessarily the Heisman Trophy favorite at quarterback anymore. It's, the defense lost some key players. You've got, the receivers aren't necessarily a Blitnikoff challengers right now. You've got maybe that tiny, tiny window if you're OSU to go and maybe try to steal a Big 12 title and make a run of the playoff. But it's going to – you're right. Everything's going to have to go right. I mean, Chuba's going to stay healthy. I don't think Chuba's going to carry the ball nearly as much now. I think he'll carry it a lot, obviously, but I think they're going to throw him the ball more. I think they're going to look to pass the ball more and take some pressure off of him. And you've got to find a backup running back. That was the problem last year. LD Brown was ineffective until very late in the season. And, and so I think you had those struggles. But I think if you get that lined up and the way the defense comes back with I think you're everyone but one starter, I think, and off the top of my head, and get that shored up and the defense is so talented. I think the defense was an underrated part of the team last year. I sang their praises a lot, especially late in the year. They got going really well, and they played about as well as you could ask last year.
You bring up the backup running back position, and if I'm trying to remember if it was you might have tweeted about it, but I know you almost certainly covered him. Was one of the kind of the gifts that OSU didn't expect to get this past summer was Dominic Richardson just kind of showing up on their doorstep. Obviously, another guy who has had injury issues. I watched him once in high school, and as a sophomore, he ran for over 300 yards in about 3/4 of play. And I was like, well, I'm going to remember that name. And sure enough, 2.5 years on, he's, signed with TCU. Obviously, things didn't work out the way he wanted there, but how feasible do you think it is that he sees the field as a freshman?
I don't have my hopes up. And it has nothing to do with him. It's everything to do with the Chuba, LD Brown combo. Micah Cooper had some flashes last year as a walk-on. And you still got Des Jackson. You've got guys like that are ahead of him in the depth chart right now. It's a perfect situation for Dominic to come in and learn for a year. And the funny thing about him is he's the same build as Chuba already. He's almost identical height, weight-wise. And so he's a powerful kid, super talented. I think I said this on Twitter. He was, the last few years I covered high schools, he was the best running back in the state. And I saw pretty much all the really super Power 5 guys, Super 30 guys, and he was always the best, even as a sophomore on. He was just that talented. And he only got bigger and stronger, and it was just incredibly fun to watch him. Now, Marcus Major Jr. at Millwood, I think specimen-wise, build and things, he was way more talented. He just never put together quite the career that Dominic did on the field. And Dominic was super talented, got McGinnis to the title game 3 out of 4 years. one year he actually missed the playoffs. They got the title game. He got hurt.
Yeah.
He got him in a position to make the playoff run. He's going to make an impact at some point. I just don't really expect him to make much this year just because of the depth of the backfield right now.
Okay, well, Ed, as we've obviously this is a sports podcast, but I do want to ask you a couple of questions that have a little less to do with sports because, as we mentioned earlier, we our worlds have kind of intertwined a certain way because I'm now at the newspaper that you used to write for. You are covering sports for the school that I spent 4 years at. So, and even though you and I have only met just a couple of times in person, if I know anything about Jacob Unruh, it's that he enjoys good food and good beer. So I'm going to ask, when you were in Lawton, and it didn't have to be in Lawton, maybe in the area, was there a particular restaurant that was kind of a hidden gem or one that you really was close to your heart?
Oh, man, that's tough. I mean, everyone knows about Mears down there. I don't really consider that a hidden gem.
And sadly, I still don't think I've eaten at Mears Burgers.
Mears Burger is pretty great, pretty good. They got their own special beer that Chalk brews for them. It's pretty solid. See, when I was down there, so many things have changed now in this 90s.
That's true.
So Trivets and Elgin used to be awesome to go to. They used to have, and I forget the woman's name who used to bake their pies. They did meringue pies that the meringue was at least 3 to 4 inches tall, and it was the pie was incredible there. The food was good too. I would go some nights before I went to cover an Elgin football game or basketball game, and John and Cook's Barbecue, I think, is still a Lawton.
Yep.
That's a Joey Goodman favorite too. I used to like to go there some. That was really good. I was talking to my wife the other day about Wayne's Drive-In. I assume it's still open down there.
Both locations, baby.
Locations going strong. I liked Wayne's down there a lot. And now if I ever get to come back, I don't come back as often as I'd like. But when I get to come back, I like to go back porch because they don't have a back porch up here. It's pretty good. I like it. So I've gone there a few times, and where else? Those are kind of the kind of the hidden gem, not really hidden gems, but the gems that I kind of liked. One place I do like to go, and I like to give a shout out to, my wife and I still go to this place around Christmas time every year. We'll drive out to Carnegie and go to the Liberty Theater, get a show dog. They do chili dogs there that are dirt cheap. The movie's dirt cheap. Everything's dirt cheap. You can go there from spend like $30 and you get like 6 or 7 hot dogs and a large popcorn and 2 large drinks in the movie. And
try that.
It's fantastic. It's the oldest theater in Oklahoma. I love going there. We usually go there and then drive over to Chickasha to check out the lights around Christmas time every year. And so we do that, and you got places like that, and you can find some.
And then finally, and I know that you obviously haven't gotten to be there a whole lot since March, but I know that you've covered plenty of a game up there. I know game day is absolutely different, so you can't necessarily get to all the restaurants, but what are there any places in particular in Stillwater? And I know everybody knows about Eskimo Joe's, but and if you ask me, that wasn't even the best food there.
It's good. I hadn't had it in years until I got on the beat this year. And after one of the basketball games, my wife actually got tickets to their family to go to the game. And afterwards, I said, "Hey, let's go to Joe's and get dinner before we head home," because I hadn't been in years, and I wanted to see if it was still good. And it was good. I'm a huge fan of Thai Loco in Stillwater.
I remember you writing about that when you covered a football game up at Stillwater High.
I discovered it when I was doing my Friday Night Bites in high school football, and it's a Thai taco place just as you come in on 51 from Oklahoma City.
Okay.
Right before you turn.
Is that Western? It might be Western.
Yeah, right when you get past it, Walmart and all that stuff, and you get into town, you turn left to go to campus. Right, yeah. It's right in the corner. And the tacos are great. It's affordable. There are a lot of people say it's the best place to eat in Stillwater, and I tend to agree. Now, I don't get a lot of local stuff there. at Granny's for breakfast one morning. That was really good. I have not had Thai cafe. I think everyone's big on that. I think even Mike Gundy's pretty big on that.
Yeah.
But I have not had that. But Thai Loco is a place that I tend to go treat myself to sometimes, and there's like a Highway 51 taco. It's a beef taco. It's really good. I get a shrimp. Wow. My favorite is the spicy Thai fish, though. The spicy Thai fish is really good. It's crispy fish, and the sauce and the stuff they put on is really, really good.
Very nice. Yeah, I was in Stillwater just a couple weekends ago, and now I feel kind of silly for not having tried Thai Loco. I think we hit the main spots. I tried to hit Eskimo Joe's, but it was too crowded, and we did Hideaway, of course.
Yeah, my wife and I did Hideaway I guess obviously that's around Christmas time we went up there, and we hit Hideaway because I never had the original Hideaway, and so we did that, and I loved it too. But Hideaway is such a chain now, but it's different there at that one. The pizza is entirely different, and I think it's better probably, to be honest, than the Hideaway chains. But yeah, Thai Loco. I actually went there in July. The trip I made to Stillwater. Scott Wright and I had to go up there for some stuff, and then we had lunch with someone from OSU there, and hung out. And it's always great to go to Thai Loco.
And then finally, as I mentioned, not just good food, but is there a particular Oklahoma beer that you've been particularly fond of this summer?
So, as you know, my wife is pregnant. A lot of people know this. My wife's pregnant.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks. She's my drinking buddy. And so my drinking buddy's on the disabled list right now. The 9-10 month disabled list, as you say, I guess. She's out for the season. But so drinking's kind of slowed down, because we never drank much at home to begin with. But I've drank some, and Rough Tail's got a good New England IPA right now. I think called Freaking Hazer Beans, really good. The other day I got a saison from Stone Cloud that was oat juice that I thought was really good. There's some good options. Rough Tail's doing really good stuff. Stone Cloud's probably our favorite around here right now in town. And Vanessa House, I really like the Vanessa House owners. So they kind of win me over a little bit on some stuff too. But Stone Cloud's probably got the best beer around here right now.
Very nice. Well, Jacob, thank you so much for being a part of this, and I really do appreciate it. And again, as I ended last week's podcast, let's just keep our fingers crossed and hope for football.
Oh man, I'm hoping. I'm ready to go and cover some stuff in person and talk to people and things like that.
All right. Well, Jacob, thank you so much again, and for SpOKen Freely, we'll see you next time.